They ruled the stars for 1,000 generations, until one night, the stars turned against them. The Adorian Empire thought themselves invincible, conquerors, warriors, legends by choice. But when the humans came, silent and prepared, the choice became survival or extinction. This is the story of a prince who defied an emperor, not to win a war, but to save a future. They were warriors, because they chose to be. They say pride comes before the fall. But on the shattered world of Velthura, pride came long after. It came in banners strung from mountain peaks and in the bone towers built from the skeletons of those who dared defy us. It came in the songs sung by children who were taught the only path to greatness was conquest. And it came in the silence, deep and cold, that followed every campaign of extermination. We were the Valari, rulers of 6 spiral arms, architects of the galactic crown, and destroyers of 9 sentient species. Our name was a war cry.
Our fleets, a black tide.
And we, the sons and daughters of war, believed that battle was not just a way, but the only way to prove worth.
But that was before Earth. Before the humans.
Before our belief in superiority became our noose.
Underscore 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 underscore. The High Council met in the obsidian chambers beneath the capital spire of Velthura Prime, carved into the heart of the oldest volcano in our system, a volcano we had silenced by force of will and geoengineering. The chamber was ancient, etched with the war songs of our ancestors and illuminated by the glowing sigils of victory. Lord Kin Varric, supreme commander of the war host, sat at the head of the table. His armor was carved from the hide of the last Kragger beast, and his breathing mask hissed with every word. They sent no warning, he growled, claws tapping on the obsidian table. No declaration of war. No demand. No envoy. Just silence.
And then they struck. Cowards, spat matriarch Kessa, her twin tails coiled in fury. Only cowards hide behind stealth and sabotage. This was not war, it was treachery. But I, Captain Zaltren, saw something different in the ashes.
They hadn't struck our homes. Not first. Not even second.
They had struck the forges.
Underscore 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 underscore. At first, it had seemed like sabotage.
One by one, our primary weapons factories began shutting down. Strange malfunctions, unexplained power fluctuations, AI errors that made no sense. Entire lines of battlecruisers froze mid-construction. Supplies of thoriumaxite, a rare fuel, vanished without trace. We sent engineers.
They didn't return.
Then we sent soldiers. They returned in fragments.
It wasn't sabotage.
It was precision warfare, unseen and perfectly timed. It was not meant to hurt us, it was meant to cripple us. And then came the broadcasts. Simple, direct, chilling. Your dominion ends here. Rebuild, and we will return. Survive, and we will not interfere. Persist in conquest, and we will erase you from the galactic record.
The council laughed at first. Of course they did. We had heard threats before.
We had buried worlds for less.
So we responded. Underscore 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 underscore. 2 fleets. 60 dreadnoughts. 1 directive, find Earth. Burn it.
Make an example. I led the 2nd fleet, the Emberlance. We were to flank them from the galactic east, charting dark zones no Valari ship had touched in centuries. I expected resistance.
I expected honor.
I did not expect to find graveyards. The route had been seeded with decoys, abandoned satellites broadcasting false trails. Human ones, salvaged from ancient eras. Some still bore the old United Nations insignia, from when humans had barely reached Mars.
We laughed.
They were scavengers, clinging to old junk. Until we realized the satellites weren't just decoys. They were mapping us. One by one, our ships disappeared.
No alarms. No distress calls.
Just silence. One moment we were 30 vessels strong, the next, only 12. I ordered a retreat. We didn't even make it back to our own border.
Underscore 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 underscore. The capital fell while we were still crawling back. The humans didn't conquer Veltura. They dismantled it. First the forges, then the comm relays, then the orbital docks. They knew everything, down to the timing of our shift rotations. They bypassed our fleets entirely. Why fight warriors when you can remove their swords? And they did it all without stepping foot on the ground. No troops. No armies. Just precision strikes, surgical and cold. When we finally limped home, the spires were still standing, but hollow. The factories, cold. The people, frightened in a way I had never seen. Not of death. Of irrelevance. Underscore 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 underscore. Lord Kinveric did not survive the final night. They say he walked into the Hall of Conquerors alone, stripped off his war armor, and burned the last surviving tapestry of our greatest campaign. He left behind no words. Only silence. Underscore 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 underscore. What followed was chaos. Rebellion. Starvation. Fragmentation. The Valari Empire, once indivisible, tore itself apart within weeks. Colonies declared independence. Generals defected. Even our Outer Rim slavers abandoned their posts and fled into the dark. And amid it all, whispers began. Not all humans had wanted this. Some had argued against retaliation. Against annihilation. But they had been overruled. Because long ago we had found them, weak and isolated, and we had taken. We didn't fear what they were. We feared what they might become. So we struck first. And now, they had shown us what becoming looks like. Underscore 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 underscore. I stood on the ruins of Forge Storm Delta, one of the last great Valari shipyards, now reduced to molten slag. I watched as children picked through debris for scraps of copper and wire, not to build weapons, but to build heaters. That was when the phrase came to me. We were warriors because we chose to be. We weren't born this way. We chose blood over peace. We glorified the hunt. We called conquest destiny. But now destiny had spoken. And it wore a human face. Underscore 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 underscore. Captain Tren, a voice called from behind, young, earnest. A survivor. What do we do now? I looked down at the broken earth, then up at the distant stars where once our banners had flown. I chose my words carefully. We survive. We rebuild. And this time, we don't start with a weapon. Centuries ago, the Valari Empire echoed with war drums, with the thunder of orbital cannons and the cries of conquest. But now, silence ruled. Not the silence of peace. Not yet. But the silence that follows ruin, the silence that demands reflection. After the collapse, Valari worlds became graveyards of ambition. Where once we had fleets, we had rust. Where once we had slaves, we had orphans. And where once we had unity, we had scattered shards of a broken crown. But that silence? It taught us something our victories never could. I became a wandering archivist, an exile by choice. Not a captain. Not a commander. Just Zal Tren. My armor stripped of insignia. My warblood cooled by years of walking among the remnants of what we had destroyed. I visited the low colonies of Dreekminer, where slaves we once ruled now built homes of their own. I lived among the Therians, the insectoid species we had nearly exterminated, only for a handful of their queen broods to survive in the outer belts. And to my astonishment, they welcomed me. Not with open arms. But without hate. That was more than I deserved. And yet they told me stories. Of how humans had come, not as conquerors, but as teachers. How they had left behind data libraries, medical caches, terraforming drones. "We do not want to rule," the human envoy had said. "We want you to remember."
But remember what? Years passed.
Some Valari factions tried to rise again. Ex-generals who clung to glory. Pirate warlords in shattered sectors. They tried to rebuild fleets, forge alliances. But they couldn't replicate what we had before. Because what we had before wasn't just technology or numbers.
It was belief. A cruel one, yes, but unified. Ruthless. Absolute.
Now, our people no longer believed.
Not in conquest.
Not even in themselves. And yet, from that ruin, something small began to grow. It began with one of our youngest colonies, Alaretha's Cradle, a moon once used for mineral farming and slave labor. The surviving civilians, most of them engineers and farmers, formed a new assembly.
Not a throne. Not a war council. A circle.
They called themselves the Flameborn. Not to glorify fire. But because they had survived it. When I arrived, I expected bitterness.
Accusations. Rage.
Instead, they offered me a role.
Not as a warrior, but as a scribe.
"History," said the elder, a thin, six-limbed Valari named Thrasen, "is a weapon. But it can also be a warning."
Help us write it. Truthfully. Brutally. Honestly. And so I did.
I wrote of the campaigns we had waged. The systems we had raised. The species we had nearly erased. I didn't hide our atrocities.
I named them.
We made sure our children would read them, not as victories, but as failures of character. And then slowly we began to speak of now. Of a people trying to define themselves without war. One day, years later, the humans returned.
Not in warships. In transports.
Scientific vessels.
Unarmed. Transparent.
Their ambassador was young.
Soft-spoken.
Her name was Malin. "I've read your writings," she told me as we stood beneath the twin suns of Alaretha's Cradle. "You do not spare your people."
"I don't spare myself," I replied. She nodded. "Good.
That means you're healing." There was no arrogance in her. No sense of superiority. Only observation, and deep sadness. "We didn't want to break you," she said. "We wanted you to stop breaking others." And that was the truth, wasn't it? Humans had not waged war against the Valari out of hatred, but out of necessity. To prevent another 1,000 years of Valari terror.
They had watched. Waited. Warned. And then acted. We would have done worse.
But they had done only what they had to. That made the defeat even heavier. The years that followed were not glorious. We didn't rise again in triumph.
We learned to stand.
A council formed between survivors of the Valari and species we had once oppressed.
Not an empire, an accord. Fragile. Flawed. But it was real.
We shared technology. Not to build warships, but weather systems. We taught each other languages, not encryption codes. And the greatest act of all? We tore down the obsidian chamber. Where our ancestors had declared war for centuries, we built a memorial garden.
No banners. No thrones. Just stone tablets.
Each one marked with the name of a world we had harmed. And above the garden gates, a single phrase. We were warriors because we chose to be. Now we choose something else. Children walk that garden now.
Valari children. Human children.
Therian larvae, and more. They ask questions. They don't always get easy answers. But they are learning the right questions.
As for me,
I grow old now. The warrior's reflexes have faded. But my mind still holds fire.
Not of vengeance. Of purpose.
Sometimes I sit beneath the stars and wonder, what if we had made different choices long ago? But then I remember.
The past is a scar. The future is a choice.
We were warriors.
But now? Now we are more.